Is feeding your family a challenge? Do you have different diets, food aversions, or allergies? Well, we have a special guest and a special show for you. Welcome again to Thriving Special Families, your place for insight, humor, and hope for your special needs parenting journey. I'm Crystal Sanford, IEP advocate, speech pathologist, speech pathologist and autism mom, and I'm your host. And today our guest is Marie. Hi, Marie.
Hello, Crystal. So happy to be here with you today.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so happy to have you and sharing with our topic today, which is help for the dinner table.
That's right. That's right. I am all about helping families get weeknight dinner on the table, even when life is crazy. Because don't you know, we all have a lot of crazy, and special needs parents especially have a lot of crazy.
Yeah, I love it because, just one area of challenge can be being able to provide sustenance, something that has some nutrition maybe for everybody in the family. I find myself making sometimes multiple meals because it's something that this child likes or my husband likes. So personally, I'm excited about the episode.
Well, I've got tips for you.
Oh, awesome. So excited about that. So families, if you're listening to our podcast, welcome again to another episode. Here we are in season 2, episode 2 of Thriving Special Families. If you're joining us live, then welcome as well. Please feel free to add your questions and comments to the comment section, and we'll do our best to answer those along the way. And lastly, always know that the information that is shared is for your informational purposes only. If you're in need of legal or medical advice, please do contact your professional in that area. So let me properly introduce Marie, and let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name. Is it Fiebach?
It's Fiebach, but I answer to it all. I say that the name is dreadful, but the husband was worth it.
Oh, I love that. Let's honor the truth, right? Yeah. Fiebach. Got it. Okay. So, Marie is awesome. Marie is a married mom of 4 active kids aged 13 to 18. And in 2017, she founded Feed Your Family Tonight to help busy families eat dinner together at home and recapture a little calm in the crazy. Marie is a business owner, a podcaster, and she has a weekly cooking segment on her local ABC affiliate. Marie knows how hard it is to get dinner on the table, especially if your kid has unique needs. She's dealt with picky eaters, food allergies, and busy schedules, but she still manages to feed her family a home-cooked meal almost every night. And she wants to help us do the same. So Marie, tell us what led you to starting this business?
I knew that there was always a business in me. And in 2017, I'd been working a contract job that was starting to end. And I knew that it was ending. And so I decided to take an entrepreneurship class. And the leader of the entrepreneurship class said, build a business around what you know and what others are coming to you for. And at that time, I have 13-year-old twin girls, and they were in competitive soccer. And at that time, soccer practice was right around dinner time. The soccer games were right around dinner time. And the moms on the sidelines were saying, we're going to hit the drive-through, go home, get the family fed, get the kids in the bath, get them the homework done, and put them to bed, right? And I was doing all of those things except for hitting the drive-through. And they started asking me, how are you managing this weeknight dinner hour with kids that are in all of these activities and not hitting the drive-through 2 to 3 times a week like they were? And that began the journey to Feed Your Family Tonight. I started reverse engineering what I was doing naturally so that I could pick it apart and start teaching it to others. And that is how Feed Your Family Tonight got started.
That is awesome, Marie. So I am, unfortunately, a parent who will say the same thing, that at least once a week, because of busy schedules and such, we end up in eating fast food. And of course, I try my best to choose the healthiest fast food possible. Okay, I'm not going to down McDonald's, but we don't do that. But still, it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge. And so, what do you think is the primary reason that makes eating at home difficult for families?
Well, for me, I really think that it comes down to time management. Weeknight dinners are not about the recipes. It is about figuring out, first of all, when you're going to eat, especially if you have kids that are grade school age and there's lots of things happening after school. You've got therapies or you've got activities. And so figuring out when you're going to eat is the first thing. And the second thing is figuring out what you're going to eat. So I teach families to plan their meals around their schedule. I have a weekly meal planning sheet that your listeners can get. It's at feedyourfamilytonight.com/thriving for thriving special families. So feedyourfamilytonight.com/thriving. And on that weekly meal planning sheet, it starts with your schedule. And you're writing down either what's happening in the afternoon or evenings, or what's happening in the day that's going to affect your energy. So if you are working full time and you've got meetings back to back to back all day, you know at 5 o'clock you are not going to have energy to fix anything fancy for dinner. You're going to need something quick and easy. And then there's other days where you have a little bit more time. Sometimes you need a dinner that you can put in the oven and then run your kids to a therapy or practice or whatever you're running them to, and come home and you pull out dinner and you eat, and then you go to your 7 o'clock meeting. I mean, we all have days like that. And in order to pick meals that work, you have to look at your schedule and you have to think about, when am I going to prep it? How long is it going to take me to cook it? Can I get some of this done the night before or when I'm cleaning up breakfast dishes? And that is the key to weeknight dinner success.
All right. So families, again, if you're just joining us, we are discussing help for the dinner table with our guest, Marie Fiebach.
You did it.
I got it. So excited. And she is giving us a wealth of tips in regards to how to feed our families successfully at home during the week. And so our first tip here is looking at your schedule, just really being really practical and really honoring who you are and where you are in space. So if you know that you have a lot of meetings, maybe you know that your kid has ABA or lots of therapies on certain days, and you're going to want to know that and plan the right kind of meals around that. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. You want to plan meals that work in your schedule. So I kind of have a 3-step process. The first step is the P, which is the plan and the prep. And you want to think about the prep on the day you need to do it and not the day of the meal. Let me give you an example. If you are having red beans and rice on Wednesday, on Tuesday, you want to soak your beans. So you're going to write on Tuesday's meal plan to soak your beans for the next day. Or I plan on Mondays. I just finished my meal plan a little bit before we came on air. And on Friday, we are having a baked cod. And I live in Kansas, so all of the fish is frozen. So I wrote on my Thursday plan, thaw fish for Friday. So the plan and the prep kind of go together. You plan what you're doing and what prep you need to do. The next thing you do is you set a dinner bell. This is I call it PSA, like those public service announcements from the 1980s. The S is set a dinner bell, and that is the target time that you're going to eat. Because as much as I would like to say that my family sits down at 6 o'clock every night, we don't. Some days it's 6, some days it's 6:30, some days it's 7 or 7:30. I mean, I set my dinner bell as my target time, and then the A is where the magic happens, Crystal. A is always have a backup, because every family at some time is going to have a day where the wheels fall off. You're going to have to, run late at the dentist's office, or you've got a meeting that runs late, or you think you're going to have the energy to fix dinner, and by the time you get home, you're feeling like toast. All of these things happen. What I call a backup is anything that you can get on the table in 20 minutes or less with ingredients that you keep in your house all the time. Because by the time you need a backup meal, it's too late. You've got to keep those ingredients in your house. One of my favorite backup meals is bean and cheese quesadillas. I keep a bag of tortillas in my freezer. I keep a bag of shredded cheese in my freezer, and I keep a can of refried beans in my pantry. I can put that together into quesadillas and pull out a bag of frozen veggies or chop up some fruit, and in 20 minutes, dinner's on the table. That's how long it's going to take you to get to the drive-thru anyway.
Yep.
A lot of families do breakfast for dinner. You know, they keep a box of pancake mix and a dozen eggs in the refrigerator, and they can get pancakes and eggs on the table, and you've got dinner. But you want to have 2 or 3 backup meals, because everyone has days where the wheels fall off, and that's going to help you avoid the drive-through when things get crazy.
Yeah, that's it. You really are hitting home right there, because as much as you have good intentions and maybe you start your week making plans, sometimes life happens. And so, yeah, that's such a smart idea to have that backup meal, that alternative meal ready always. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, you know, my sister, it happened to her last winter. She woke up at 2 in the morning with one of her kids with the stomach bug, and that was the day she was going to go to the grocery store. And you can't take a toddler with the stomach bug to the grocery store. And so she had a backup meal ready to pull out, because even though it was grocery day, she was planning on going to the grocery store, life happened.
Yeah.
And we all have days like that.
Oh, wonderful. So, Marie, what are your tips for parents? Let's say they're listening to you, and, no shame, parents, for any of us, we're all in this together. What would you say to a parent that says, okay, I want to start doing this. I want to start maybe at least reducing our time in drive-through and feeding my family at home. Well, what might be a beginning step for that parent?
The first step is to take 10 minutes either on the weekend or on Monday and set a meal plan. Get that Feed Your Family Tonight weekly meal planning sheet and look at your schedule and plan your meals for 4 or 5 days. Don't try and plan the whole week the first time you're doing it, because you're going to get overwhelmed. Plan 4 or 5 days, but think about your schedule. Don't get too aspirational. Macaroni and cheese, frozen chicken nuggets, all of these things count as dinner. So when you're first starting to do this, don't get too aspirational and think you're going to be Ina Garten fixing a, fancy roast chicken the first day. Get something really simple, right? No, because that's just it. Is feeding your family does not have to be Pinterest perfect. You don't have to be the pioneer woman. You don't have to be Martha Stewart. Getting dinner on the table is enough, and getting in the habit of even just taking the frozen chicken nuggets rather than going to the drive-thru and getting the chicken nuggets. Getting in the habit of doing it at home is going to help. And really, in anything in life, it's all about habits, right, Crystal? I mean, it's about getting predictability, stability, and getting into a rhythm. And these habits affect your children just as much as they affect you. And as you get in the habit of regular family meals at home, you get this predictability and stability for your children. And let me tell you what happens over time when you start doing that. I have 4 teenagers, and we have, not very often, a couple times a month maybe, have deep discussions about really important, what I call tender topics. And my children bring those to the table because they know that the table is a place of stability. They know that they can count on it. And I've been finding that a lot of times it's been happening at Sunday brunch, because they know they have the gift of time on Sundays, and we're not running to get to bed or to get homework done or any of those types of things. And we will have very deep discussions. Just this past weekend, we had a long discussion about our heritage and our ancestors, and my grandfather, who was an immigrant, and the sacrifices that he made that gave my children the opportunities that they have now. And when you start making regular family meals a part of your family rhythm, you provide a safe place for your children.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be fancy food.
Oh, that's so good. And a rhythm and predictability, like all of those are such valuable things for our families who have kids with unique needs, right? So, I'm a special education advocate, a speech pathologist, but first of all, I'm a mom. I have 2 kiddos, one with some anxiety issues and another on the autism spectrum. And predictability and, something to depend on is huge, huge, huge. It can help reduce anxiety. It can also, like you said, create a safe space, in many cases for families, to just talk, to practice language. And that's what our kids need in a natural environment anyway, is to practice that communication, that back and forth of conversation. And as they're teenagers, even some more deeper conversations. So this is wonderful. Something as simple as opening up that bag of frozen, chicken nuggets and fries, but sitting together at home can have so much more impact than it does trying to stuff your face in the car.
100%. And I'm not saying there aren't times. We all have our times when that's what life is like. But that rhythm and that stability, and I am a cook, I am a recipe developer, but I want parents to know that you don't have to be that, and it doesn't have to be perfect meals. Simple meals still provide nutrition, they still provide stability, they still provide predictability. So don't feel like you have to do it all. Just do a piece of it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
That's beautiful. So tell me, Marie, I know you coach families as well, and you work with families. What are some tips for families who do have children with maybe selective eating or food allergies? Their plight might be a little different.
Let me tell you, I'm going to start with a story. I had a child that would not touch ice cream until they were 5 because they were so scared of it. I know what it's like to have selective eaters, and I have one child that has a big intolerance to one of the main allergens, and I've been there. So a couple of my tips are, it's not your fault as a mom. If they are being selective, it is not your fault. Okay, so don't carry that burden on you. The second thing is that I really believe, especially with selective eaters, in seeking professional help. And sometimes that's with an OT, and sometimes that is with a dietitian, and sometimes that's a team. But if you have a child that is really very selective, I had a friend whose child only ate things that were brown and crunchy. Okay, you start having digestive issues when your kid's only eating things that are brown and crunchy, and they had to seek professional help. But beyond that, once you've got that piece and you've got the professional help going, is put different things on the plate with no expectation of them eating it. In our house, we had a rule that you didn't have to eat it, but you had to look at it. And so they looked at it on the plate over and over and over again. And eventually, sometimes they would lick it. Sometimes they would touch it. Sometimes they would even eat it. And they might eat it one time and not eat it for the next 6 months. But don't give up. And I have this concept of base ingredients. And especially, I tell this to people that are trying to eat healthier. I don't really define healthy because everyone's idea of healthy food is a little different. But this concept of base ingredients has really helped families expand their palates. I've got families that are just loving this idea. And here's how it works is you can either change the main ingredients or you can change the flavors. But don't change them both at the same time. So let's say your family is used to eating spaghetti with a meat sauce, right? You could change those flavors to spaghetti with a meat sauce and use cumin and curry and get more of a Indian flavored pasta and meat sauce. You might change the shape of the pasta, but you're not going to change it to a chickpea curry from spaghetti and meat sauce. So you're keeping the tomatoes, you're keeping the beef, you're keeping the pasta, and you're just changing the flavors. Or you can change the main ingredients but keep the same flavors. So let's say your family's used to eating that spaghetti and meatballs with oregano and basil, the typical Italian things. Take out the beef and change it to a lentils or a chickpea. And you're changing the protein, but you're not changing the flavors. I find that my family revolts when I change them both at the same time. If I change one or the other, they're much more likely to try it and expand their palates. This works especially when you're trying to look for new recipes. So let's say you're scrolling through your phone or you're flipping through a magazine and you see a recipe and you think, okay, are the ingredients the same or are the flavors the same than things that I'm already feeding my family. And if you're only changing one or the other, it's a recipe worth trying. If it changes both at the same time, your family's going to revolt. At least my family does, especially when you've got picky eaters. And I will tell you, 90% of families have at least one picky eater in them. When I ask families, what is your biggest challenge? 9 times out of 10, they're saying picky eaters and time. Those are the two things that people are saying. And I talk to thousands of families, and people are telling this to me over and over again. So think about that concept of base ingredients. Either change the main ingredients or change the flavors, but don't change them both at the same time.
Wow, that's so valuable, I think, to know something as simple as that. That could really be a game changer for introducing new things to your family. And I think it's not too early to start too. I love the idea, like you said, of maybe turning it more of an Indian spin, or a different cultural spin by different flavors. You could do that with little ones, and I think it's maybe important to do that when your kids are little, so that their palate develops, and as they get older, they can, tolerate lots of different foods.
Absolutely. I have a dear friend, and she works at her church, and they were having camp at their church this past week. And it was around the world. That was kind of their theme for their church camp this week. And one of the activities was to try foods from the different cultures. And she said, the craziest I got was seaweed. She said, but it was amazing how in the context of we are going around the world, the foods that the kids would actually try. She said almost all of them at least licked everything that they put in front of them. And so you can do that in your family too, as you can go through the world, and you can say, hey, and you learn something about Asia, and you try a new Asian flavor, and you learn something about the Middle East, and you try some Mediterranean or some Middle Eastern foods. And that can also be a way to kind of expand palates. And it's learning, and what it does is it takes the focus off of you're going to try this new food, and it gets it broader into we're just learning.
Yeah, I like that. That's great. And that can be really, I'm just thinking now about kiddos who, again, have these selective palates, kids with sensory needs and such things. And maybe if they're into Thomas the Train, or if they're into something, then you can tie it to that. Well, Thomas is going to Asia, so, or Thomas is eating his green beans today, you will too, or something like that. I'm thinking, I don't know, that could work.
Oh, 100%. There's a really good Daniel the Tiger episode. Try new foods. They might taste good. There's a little Daniel Tiger song. If you have littles, look up that Daniel Tiger episode, because it's really, really good. And it's try new foods. They might taste good. They might. You might like them. But with selective eaters and sensory issues, I have personally lived it, and I know how hard it is. And I'm just going to offer encouragement. Don't give up, and don't be surprised when your kid surprises you out of nowhere. They'll try it at grandma's house, or they'll try it at a friend's house. Sometimes they will try new foods when they're not in your home, and that can help too. So that's just something. Just don't give up. It gets better. It's hard.
That's so good. Yeah. And I like it. It could take 6 months. It's on the plate. You have to at least look at it, and it could take that long. And also, like you said,
6 years.
Yeah, it could take 6 years. Yeah. Like in your case, and involving that professional as necessary, because we do, of course, want to have our kids, with nourishment and hydrated, but it could be that type of planning that they do, where they're just exposing in multiple exposures before the kid finally tries it. And so, yeah, don't give up. My daughter's 10 now, and there's things now that she eats that we would have never thought she would have eaten when she was diagnosed with autism at 3.5. And so don't give up, parents, for sure. Yeah. So, Marie, and some of our last questions, and families, as you're watching, feel free to add your questions to the comment section. In our last moments together, Marie, tell us about another family maybe that you've worked with that maybe had a child with unique needs, or some, sensory differences or food differences that you've been successful in working with.
Well, I tell you what, dealing with families that have kids that have sensory issues or eating differences or food allergies is what I've had the most with is it's so much easier to focus on what you can serve rather than what you can't. So when you're working with a family, when I'm working with a family that is having trouble with food allergies and the mom is completely overwhelmed. I was doing an on-air coaching with the mom a few months ago, and she's like, my kids love Japanese ramen because they were raised overseas, but it takes so much time to make Japanese ramen. And I said, well, do you ever just make bone broth in your crock pot and just put it in and then let it cook for 24 hours? And she said, what is this magic? Because the broth is what makes this Japanese ramen. And one little tip completely changed her world, because now she can make something that is very nourishing, something that her family absolutely loves, that gets around her family allergies. And it didn't take her any time. It was 5 minutes hands-on one night. She let the crock pot cook it for 24 hours and it was ready for dinner the next night. It was a recipe that she used to stand at the stove and watch for 8 hours during the day. And so she only made it every once in a while, but it was a really nourishing thing that her children would eat, and it was safe for their allergies. And I just took one little cooking technique that she had, flipped it to a slow cooker, and her whole world was changed. And that's part of what working with me is like, is it's nothing life-changing. It's nothing earth-shattering. We're talking about dinner. Everybody feeds their family every night. I don't care if it's the drive-through or cheese and crackers, you're feeding your family one way or another, right? But having someone who is professional come in from the outside and just look at your situation and make small little tweaks, like the base ingredients, trying to help expand palates, looking at things that a food allergy family can have rather than trying to find expensive substitutions that don't taste good, that they can't. When I was working with a family that had to go low sodium, and food just didn't taste good when they're low sodium. So we learned new recipes to make, and they had new foods, and the new foods were made without salt, so they didn't know any different. And so it's about having someone with a professional eye come in and make small tweaks so that your life is easier. It's nothing earth-shattering. It's just dinner. But having someone come in from the outside can really make a difference.
Oh, that's so great. Families, again, if you have kiddos with any challenges around dinner, or maybe you've just got multiple kiddos, or you've got multiple appointments and you need some help, Marie is the person to go to. So Marie, how can parents reach out to you and find out more?
Sure, absolutely. My Instagram is Feed Your Family Tonight, and I love connecting with you there. You can Feed Your Family Tonight on Instagram and Facebook, and feedyourfamilytonight.com is the website. If you're interested in private coaching and really just want some help in there, there's a contact me in there on my About page, and you can fill out a little form, and I am happy to talk with you about private coaching for Feed Your Family Tonight. It really is something that small little changes can really relieve a lot of parental burden. And I'm about making things easy, and it's just building stronger families by connecting at the dinner table.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. So parents, we've learned so much about help at the dinner table with Marie. She's talked about prepping, knowing your schedule and planning around that, having that alternative meal always, ready at hand. And then also, giving yourself grace and time, and just knowing that whatever your family dinner looks like now, it can get better. It may take time, but it can get better. So it's just been a pleasure having you here, Marie.
Oh, Crystal, the pleasure's mine. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, yes, definitely. And parents, if you want to learn more about Marie, definitely check her out. She also is offering that free meal plan, at her site, which is feedyourfamily.com/thriving. And then also parents, if you're in need of IEP help or special education advocacy, always reach out to us at Sanford Autism Consulting or sdautismhelp.com. So again, another episode of Thriving Special Families. Always remember, parents, you're going to be okay, and your child's going to be okay too. Have a great one.